some of our fallen soldiers out here and some of our fallen children. Like I said, E.J. Bradford, who was murdered. Let me turn it down. Let me say it loud. Who was murdered by the Hoover police over in Western Alabama. Those of you that are watching and listening, E.J. Bradford was shot down by a Hoover police officer on Thanksgiving evening in the mall. He was shot down without warning. E.J. did have a weapon. E.J. did have a license from the state of Alabama to carry that weapon. He was not advised to put the weapon down. The police officer did not identify himself. He did not hesitate to shoot E.J. in the back like a coward, and he did not, most importantly, get charged. How about that? He didn't even get charged. They refused to charge anything. There's a dead black young man, and they will not charge the man who pulled the trigger. They won't even, so you want to talk about accountability. Now, had it been you, you'd have been facing charge.
Had it been me, but we do have to realize that when we're talking about police, accountability goes deeper than a single officer. It also applies to both the departments themselves. It applies to department policy. It applies to the lawmakers who set that policy. So when we talk about accountability, and if we confine that to a single officer, if we confine accountability to a single officer, I think that we miss the degree to which shooting black people in the back reflects policy that.
No, that's not my point. That it was a single officer. But my point is that he wasn't charged.
Right.
My point is the system won't even afford the right for him to be accountable because the system says he's not accountable. So again, that's the whole system. It's not just the one officer. I'm just saying this is the thing. White officers can kill us with impunity and not be held accountable because of the system that's in place. That's my point. Let's sit down. I know y'all probably looking at the ceiling on Antoine's face looking crazy. But, we are still here. We're just having a little technical difficulty, and just bear with us. So again, Antoine, in the vein of accountability, I'm not saying that the officer isn't accountable.
I'm saying that. What I'm saying is that in a circumstance like this, accountability has to be more than even letting one officer go to jail. It also has to be.
Go ahead, talk.
It also has to acknowledge the degree to which those officers are enacting policy that's agreed to and enacted both by the entirety of the force and by the legal system itself. Accountability can't stop or start with one officer.
No.
It can't start and stop with one officer. So even if he had gotten charges for it, we have to acknowledge the degree to which the capacity to shoot black people is both endemic to policing in practice and endemic to what people expect from policing in practice.
What's going on there, sister-in-law? You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And again, we can't change this overnight, Antoine. You had asked me a question before on an Audrey Scott Williams show. You asked me about what was being politically active. And part of being politically active is holding these people's feet to the fire, whether, the powers that be in the system. It's not just by voting. It's a matter of shedding light on these things that are going on. It's a matter of being involved. It's a matter of going to your city council meetings. Like you said, they're in the process in a lot of states of trying to make it illegal to video police officers. Now, if we go down that road, we may as well not have cameras at all. I mean, the cameras now, they're not even working because what happens is you get it on film and you still don't get any results. So imagine it'll be open season for real.
Well, look. I want to say the outset that I've never been a major supporter of police body cams because if the problem is police shooting you how is addressing the problem having video of police shooting you?
Allegedly, it's supposed to show accountability.
That's not how it works. If somebody,
allegedly.
if somebody is abusing a weapon, a firearm, your response to that isn't to give them a video camera to watch them abuse it even better and in a higher quality. It's to actually potentially remove that firearm from them. Correct?
No.
No, really.
The way it's supposed to work is to show it actually what.
Let me be more direct.
I understand how you feel about.
Let me be more direct. Yeah. It's just. If the issue is police shooting you, having body cameras is a very indirect response to that issue. The issue is directly police shooting you, so you remove shooting as a factor. You should target shooting as a factor. But body cams, that's okay. First off, we're in a situation where cops internally avoid accountability anyway. So why would body cams actually assist with that? And particularly, if policy for body cams is going to be decided by the police in conjunction with the lawmakers that make it legal for them to shoot us. This has never made any kind of sense to me as a solution.
And I understand you, but there were no guns that beat you to death. It happens. They choke people to death all the time. Again, it's supposed to be a way to show evidence of the wrongdoing. Now, we've seen video. We saw Rodney King get beat down by these cops. We had it on video. It didn't hold up.
Castillo.
Yeah, the Castro, exactly. Castillo, I'm sorry. EJ, and we can go on and on and on. It only works when it's against the police, when someone shoots a police officer. It's the only time that their body cam works.
I think that we have reams of evidence that police shoot black people. We have never been lacking in evidence of that.
Oh no!
And it's not a lack of evidence for that, which leads to the lack of prosecutions for police. I think that we have to be. Again, I think that it makes very little sense if you're articulating a specific set of abuse, you target the abuse itself.
Again,
this is how we treat any kind of criminal undertaking.
This is what you just said. You can't have me oversee me. There needs, you know what I'm saying? You can't have the police oversee the police. They're gonna protect each other.
But again,
so again, if there's true oversight, it should go to a higher court.
Again, but the problem though is that oversight, first off, oversight is internalized when it comes to police departments. So the other problem is that if the problem is specifically with their use of firearms, and your policy has nothing to do with firearms, you're actually making policy that has nothing to do with the issue in question.
Now, let me ask you.
Again, when it comes, I would even have more respect if we require police officers to have a stricter use of force guidelines.
That I can agree.
That would actually be responsible for the issue because the problem is both when they can carry guns, when they can when they can unholster them, and when they can fire them.
And how to shoot.
Yeah,
because they're instructed different than the military. The military has definite rules of engagement.
Right. The Uniform Code of Military Justice actually says that I don't think that you can shoot. You can't shoot anybody unless they shoot at you first. And that's it. Whether or not you're occupying. People in Iraq, they had a stricter use of force policy than actual police officers do.
Yeah.
Much stricter.
And that's a shame. And that's like you said, that is the problem. And again,
the problem is surrounding firearms, so you're not really going to address the problem if you're legislating something else.
No, it's not around firearms.
It's about surrounding the use of firearms.
Let me tell you something.
It's not about the possession of firearms. It's about
let me tell you something. It's the use of deadly force.
Right.
There are people that died. Wait.
With what?
People get choked to death, and they said that they hung themselves in prison. I saw a woman get brought in by the police. She was alive when they put her in the police car. She started going into distress, and they stood and watched her die.
Right.
So dead is dead, whether you're shot, strangled, or stopped to death.
Now,
again, you take away the power. There are many men that have been hung and lynched from trees. Come on,
Herschel.
The problem is the mentality of these folks behind these badges. They feel that they can abuse us with impunity. Whether if there was no firearms, they would still abuse us. They would still abuse. They would still kill us.
But the thing that we have to consider scope. You can only choke one person at a time, Herschel, but you can shoot multiple people at once, and you can also shoot people more easily. We have to acknowledge the degree to which the ease of use for firearms makes the application of deadly force consequence-free for officers, and that's both reflected in how many people are comparatively killed through guns versus how many people are comparatively killed through being choked to death. Last year, and I've consistently said this, we have a Washington Post as an excellent little piece of reporting that documents how many people have been shot by the police. And if I'm not mistaken, last year was up to 2,500. Now you can't get to that choking people, Herschel.
Antoine, I respect.
Not in 1 year. Not in 1 year.
I respectfully say you out here rapping behind my. Because let me tell you something. Dead is dead. You tell me.
I'm not saying it's less dead. I'm saying more people can die.
Dead is dead.
I'm saying more people can die.
I don't care. Don't tell me 100 died this way, 50 died this way.
No. It's between 2,000 versus maybe 20, 30, maybe 200.
That died in police custody. Antoine, that merely died, so-called in police custody.
So what you're saying is that
death is death. We got to address. The problem is not. The problem is the system lets us get killed with impunity. Sandra Bland didn't get shot to death, but she's not the only woman to die under circumstances like that. A lot of times when they die like that, they'll write it off as a suicide or something natural. Again, abuse is abuse. So now let's say we address that. Now do we move on to the other, or do we address the whole issue? The whole issue is abuse on black people. The issue is the abuse of there was a study done, there was an expose where they had prisoners fighting each other to the death in some of these prisons. Now it goes down as violence between two prisoners, but the guards will pit them against one another and bet on them. Now these go unreported. They're put down as violence against inmates against inmates. You see what I'm saying? The system is screwed up. The system is set up for these idiots to operate within it. If they can't shoot you, they'll find another way to do it. My thing is, we have to revamp the whole system or get rid of the system as it were. We talked about that as well. The problem is violence against us. Dead is dead. Don't tell me because mine died because he got choked to death is any less important.
I didn't say it was less important.
No,
I said scope.
You said scope.
I said scope.
There ain't no scope. Dead is dead. The problem is us dying. The scope is that we're dying at the hands of people that are supposed to protect us. I don't care if it's 1 to 100. One is too many. One is too many. My thing is, we have to address the issue, and the issue is over-policing. The issue is abuse. How many people get beat by the police that don't die? How many people get maimed and it never goes reported? See, but you don't want. We have to include all of that. We have to.
Look, Herschel. The reason why we should distinguish between okay, well, first off, let's go backwards. And because you said something earlier that I think is a good starting point. The problem is violence generally. We have to acknowledge the degree to which better capacity and better tools to use violence makes your capacity to project threat and project intimidation easier. Armed police force is more intimidating than an unarmed police force. You agree with that? Yeah. A lethally armed police force that has guns, that has capacity for riot gear, shotguns, handguns, etc., is more dangerous just on a one-to-one basis than the reverse. Yeah. Okay, and this threat of violence is also what facilitates arrest. Will you agree with that? Yeah. Peaceable facilitation of arrest requires the ability to project violence through the use of lethal force, which police represent.
I'm going
down the line. Okay, so if guns are the factor that makes it easier for police to project violence, it makes it easier for them to project force in a way that facilitates compliance, how is directly targeting guns not directly targeting all the other aspects of the system?
Easy.
Okay.
There's a call for the police to come because there's an armed man. So do they send unarmed police?
Yes, actually.
So you send unarmed police to a situation where someone is holding hostages or has a gun.
Yeah.
Okay, you heard it live here on
and then I'm going to tell you why. We're in a circumstance where it strikes me as inconsistent to both simultaneously be righteous and correct about the degree to which police abuse us, and to, on the other hand, expect police to protect us when other armed situations come about. We have to, it's inconsistent to both simultaneously say that the police are violently killing black people and then to say the police are our only option when there's an armed person inside of a neighborhood.
Well, what you said is double talk. Let me tell you.
It's not double talk.
No. Because it is. Because even in places where they have unarmed police, when the situation warrants, you go to England, and if there's a gunman, they send an armed unit.
Okay, and you know what I'll say to that? What I'll say to that is I think that's better, but that's not ideal.
I just asked you the same question.
No,
you said no.
Okay, yeah.
So you send an unarmed man to a situation where people are holding hostages with guns. How are you going to help me if this idiot got a gun on me as Robert?
Okay, but you see, that's precisely the kind of argument. First off, we have to acknowledge the degree to which violence has gone down. Violence makes up a very small and minuscule portion of actual crime compared to where it was in both the 80s and 90s. But violence has gone down precipitously to the point where, and we should also note the degree to which policy changes do more to actually minimize crime than actually putting police into place. So when you have a bad neighborhood, sending police to a problem is a reactionary response. It's not a progressive response. If you actually, one of the best things that people can do, and you can go to any gas station and you can see it for yourself. But they showed that bright lights is one of the things that actually discourages crime in many of the places. If I'm not mistaken, the New York Police Department, they actually commissioned a study showing changing street lights and showing the distinction between dim versus bright street lights, and crime went down. I think it was upwards of 60% in areas with brighter street lights. That's a policy solution that requires investing money into black communities. That requires putting money into black communities. And another problem: most of the places where quote unquote crime is concentrated in places without jobs, without investment.
Exactly.
And so if you want to minimize crime, sending a cop after it doesn't actually do anything. What you should do is you should actually put investment. You should send investment opportunities. So right now in an American context, I don't think that policing can be anything more than a blunt instrument and a racialized blunt instrument of that. So because I believe that, I also don't think that there is also a good time, a quote unquote good time to actually use that, because it's inescapable. The function of police is inescapable from how we've seen historically.
I hear you, and like I said, one thing about us here at Real Talk, we don't always agree, but we do have respect for one another.
Right, certainly.
And this is what we're trying to get people to understand. Antoine and I were put together by fate, by God, whatever, and some of our views couldn't be more starker than night and day. But we find a way to respect each other's views and opinions. And work together regardless, because our greater goal is to help our community. So that's our goal. Antoine's differences and mine don't matter, but we are respectful about the way that we disagree. And this is what we were trying to get people to understand out there. You don't have to be disagreeable. You don't have to be a butthead and bash somebody in the face because you don't like what they say, especially when they look like you. Especially when they look like you. You need to find a way to agree to disagree and work on what you can work on together. Now that I've said that, I didn't make my point. I just want to make that point.
Oh, yeah. I understand.
Because again, I just want to see if I bust up in your house and I hold your mama and you hostage with a gun, how you want or expect someone that is unarmed to defuse the situation. I might need to be shot, Antoine. Maybe I can't be talked at, and I got a gun in your mother's head. Let's see how you feel then. I'm just saying. There is always a situation that.
Herschel, you're black. You're very black.
Yeah.
You're very black, and I'm sure that both of us can think of situations where people have been violently accosted and they called the police, and they were the people that called the police were the ones that got shot.
It happened to me.
And again, this is the persistent risk that we have so long as policing is racialized, and as long as that's a risk, we can't assume as long as that's a risk. There are two things that are true. We can't assume that the aegis of protection actually falls on us, and we can't portray them as a reasonable solution to direct problems. Like, it would be nice if we did have a force that could be trusted with that level of violence or that level of lethal force, but we don't have that. And so long as we don't have that, we have to respond accordingly, Herschel. That part of that response involves preemptively incorporating the degree to which police cannot be trusted with lethal force.
Okay, so what do you feel about the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms? What I'm asking is,
no.
give me
No.
I'm asking, no. I'm not being funny.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if I have the right to protect myself, it might ease some of that threat. So if you break into my home, I have means to defend myself.
I'm of two minds. I'm of two minds about the Second Amendment. I think that it's probably one of the worst amendments in the Constitution in terms of both how it's written and how it's portrayed. I think that I know a lot of people are quote unquote originalists or strict constitutionalists, but we have to acknowledge the degree to which current circumstances were not anticipated by the founders.
Right.
And so what was reasonable for people who had muskets with bayonets at the tip is not reasonable for people in a society where we have automatics and semi-automatics freely available. That said, my response to the removal of the Second Amendment or to efforts to actually minimize application of the Second Amendment is that I don't trust an anti-gun response that doesn't look at the state and go, you first. I don't. I think that, you know, if we're in a post Black Lives Matter context and we're taking that seriously, we can't also agree to disarmament in the face of an armed state police force. And I'm not saying that we need to shoot police or anything like that. I would never right. say that.
No.
But I am saying that at least with the Second Amendment, you know, we have both historical and present day tools to actually collectivize some kind of use of force, so that we're not the only people that have force visited upon them.
That's what I'm asking. So.
Now, unfortunately, I do think that the Second Amendment is interpreted in an overly individualistic light. I think that even if we did end up having an organized posture for the use of force inside of our communities, I think that I would trust it more if it wasn't just dudes in the street, you know, Wild West style with ready to quick draw on you. It would be nice if there was both internal use of force guidelines. You know, there were only certain kinds of weapons that were used for enforcement or something like that. I think it would be good to talk about
a common sense approach that people shouldn't have military grade weapons. I agree with you totally as well.